Welcome back to another special episode of Real Reactions. We're hosting our Real Opinions number 2. So, question, what do Twilight and The Devil Wears Prada have in common? Still stumped? Well, they're my guilty pleasure movies, and that's exactly what we're covering in today's episode. So let's find out the cast's favorite guilty pleasure movies and TV shows, and see if any of yours are mentioned. Let's dive in. Welcome back, everyone. This is our second episode of Real Opinions, where we are going to be talking about guilty pleasure movies. So, right off the bat, starting with the movies, what are your guilty pleasure movies?
I love comedies, and I feel like a lot of those are guilty pleasures for me, just because sometimes the quality of them is not so high, and the fact that I love them so much, I feel like is kind of embarrassing. And the one I'll state specifically, I feel like there's a lot, just any comedy movie I'm pretty open to, but I love Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, and that is one of my favorite comedies, and I love that movie. And it is so stupid, and yeah.
I listed mine out because I wanted to make sure that I didn't forget any. So here's my little mini list. But so the ones I'll go over, Hobbs and Shaw is so much fun. I love Hobbs and Shaw so much. It's so ridiculous and it's so much fun. I love Jason Statham and with The Rock in it. Idris Elba as the villain is so comically bad, but it's amazing because it works so well. I put Moonraker, which is one of the older James Bond movies where they go into fucking space, which is absolutely sick. And it has, I think, Andre the Giant or something like that. He plays Jaws, and it's a guy with metal teeth, and he bites a rod while they're on a cable car, which is the sickest thing ever.
All right, I was going to say I agree with Jillian. People kind of trash on comedies. I'm a big fan of Seth Rogen's movies, like This Is the End, Pineapple Express. There's only so many good comedies. And anything with Andy Samberg, like Hot Rod, Pop Star, those are classics.
I think a trend with mine are they're sort of action or sci-fi big movies. I made a list of a few, Independence Day is a big one. Mission Impossible 2, the Star Wars prequels, which I love. I love those movies. Batman and Robin. There's this crazy one called Plan 9 from Outer Space, which is my favorite guilty pleasure. It's this, I think it's 1950s sci-fi movie.
One movie that comes to mind that I wrote down on my little notes, like John, I wrote down Labyrinth. I'm not sure if anyone's seen it. It's from 1986. It stars David Bowie, which, I love David Bowie. And also has Jim Henson's puppets in it, like the guy who created the Muppets. And it's very, looking back on it, lots of bad 1980s special effects, and the dialogue isn't always fantastic, but it's great. I love it.
That movie is such a fever dream. Whenever I think about that movie, I'm like, did I actually watch that? And yes, I did.
Yeah, it's like any type of kids fantasy movie, but on LSD. That's how I like to think about it.
So what are your favorite characters in these movies?
Since I started off with comedies, I mentioned Jay and Silent Bob. I love Jay. I think he's so funny. Silent Bob doesn't really talk, right? So I guess he doesn't have a lot of dialogue, but just all of the stuff that happens is so funny. And who else? I feel like there's so many comedies that I love that the characters are so good. There's Mugatu from Zoolander, so iconic. Wayne's World isn't one I consider a guilty pleasure because I think Wayne's World is actually good, but I love Wayne also. I think Mike Myers is one of my favorite people, and I think that he's so funny. And Austin Powers too. I
think that from the ones that I listed, I just love Anakin from the Star Wars prequels. Anakin is, some of that dialogue I will admit is pretty terrible, but it's great and it's amazing. And also Mr. Freeze in Batman and Robin is just one of the best characters ever. The puns and stuff. I rewatched it recently and it really felt like a comic book, being a big fan, which I think is something it has going for it. That movie is it's shit on all the time, but I think it's a little overhated. It's super fun. Sometimes we need fun Batman. So Mr. Freeze.
I've seen Batman and Robin, and I can't say that it is a guilty pleasure. I kind of hate it, but it does have those puns. And let me tell you, every time I laughed at that movie, it was when Arnold Schwarzenegger said something. What was that one thing he said? It was like, what came before the dinosaurs? It was like the Ice Age or something like that.
What killed the dinosaurs?
The Ice Age. There, that's what it was. And I love, 1, the bat nipples, and 2, the Batman credit card, which I don't know why it exists for some reason, but it's there. And I wonder,
Batman has to make a quick purchase. He can't let it be traced back to Bruce Wayne. That is like the first place you would go. Cash exists, so I don't know why he doesn't just use cash. But no, he needs something non-traceable.
yeah, but is his credit card under Batman's name or is it under Bruce Wayne's name? Because I don't think you have ID for Batman.
It's like first name Bat, second like last name Man.
Nobody's talked about horror movies yet, but I love like the scary movies, like 1, 2, 3, where like she's like running towards the killer and she's like the phone is like a banana or something, like stupid shit like that. I just love that.
Oh, I love the Friday the 13th series. A lot of people hate on Friday the 13th, which is one of my favorite horror movies. But my best friend and I back home, like that is like our thing. Is just like watch the next one, and we're like, okay, what's next? And we have like we just watch the first 2 over and over again because we love them. And then as they go on, we're like, just like they're the same exact movie, just like with different characters every time. But that is our thing. We just turn on like the next Friday the 13th.
I honestly don't like any of the Friday the 13th. I've seen like 4 of them, and I don't know why they just don't put them in. I'm more of a Michael guy, anyways.
Okay.
And actually,
love
H2O
Halloween
Resurrection.
too.
What a segue to H2O Resurrection. Why don't we talk about H2O Resurrection and how terrible and great that movie is? Where I forget what that dude's name is, but he's like, "Happy Halloween, motherfucker!" and then he kicks the dude out of the room. The movie is so insane. It's so bizarre because it has a place in my heart where I hate it to its guts, and I also love it for some reason.
Wait, so you think that the Freddy Krueger movie, I keep saying Friday the 13th, but that's Jason Voorhees. Yes, Nightmare on Elm Street. Thank you. I totally blanked out. Do you think they're bad, Jillian?
No, when did I say that?
Oh, because he said guilty pleasure. I was getting confused. Also, John, I also really love Halloween. I like the first one. I'll agree to disagree with you on Jillian on the second one because they made Michael Myers like her brother, which was weird. I didn't like that whole dynamic.
Okay, moving on from movies, let's jump into TV shows. What are your guilty pleasure TV shows?
I think that like most of my guilty pleasure TV shows are ones that like I really enjoyed when I was younger. The main thing that comes to mind is like the CW DC shows. Like I thought those were the greatest things when I was younger, and there are some good seasons, but it gets so crazy and like so just terrible at points. I still love them, and also I think Family Guy would be one, because that was like a big thing for me when I was younger. I don't know, I watched that too young, and specifically the Clue episode. That's my favorite episode.
My 2 TV shows that come to mind right off the bat. First is Gravity Falls. I love that show. I thought, and to this day, I would still watch like on Disney Plus. I just think it's so fun. Number 2 is Goosebumps, but that's, I think, in my eyes like a classic. Even though like you go back, you're like, wow, this is really bad, like 90s effects, and it's not well written, and the books are 10 times better. But I loved it. And also, Are You Afraid of the Dark? That came to mind too. That was a Nickelodeon show too.
Family Guy is fantastic. Love that show growing up. I just watched the recent season not too long ago. It's pretty fire, not gonna lie. They're like, it got a lot worse for a while, but it's coming back. Like, I don't know what writers they got on the show, but it's still funny. A gem I came across recently that I know most people are gonna be like, why do you watch that? Australian Wipeout is a masterpiece. Just gonna throw that out there. I'll put you guys on. You can thank me later. It's one of the best things I've seen in a long time, but I know people are gonna be like, that's so stupid.
I love cartoons, and so I feel like that's kind of my guilty pleasure genre, is like anything animated I really love and I can really get into. But I feel like, as a 20-year-old, like it's not cool to like be into like animation and stuff. So I feel like that's my guilty pleasure overall, is just like, it's like people ask me like what TV shows I'm like I don't really watch TV, because like in reality, like I'm watching Teen Titans or something,
I think this has to be my guiltiest pleasure. I watch like TLC, like reality shows. I watch like 90 Day Fiance and Unexpected, which is a teenage pregnancy show, which I like to call personally teenagers getting pregnant. I think that's where I feel guilty. None of these I really don't feel bad for, but these I'm watching and I'm here and I'm spending like $20,000 in tuition to like become a film student. I'm here watching them cuss out or like blur out swear words, and I'm watching people fight over stuff, and like, man, these people aren't gonna make it. I don't understand why I watch them, but they're just so damn entertaining to see how stupid some of these people really are.
Nothing could have prepared me for the shock that John watches like TLC reality shows.
That's a good segue into reality shows. Guilty pleasure reality shows. Anyone got any besides TLC? I know I watched Keeping Up with the Kardashians. Love it. Also The Bachelor franchise.
I was gonna say, I've watched some of the seasons. I haven't watched a lot of The Bachelor, but there's a couple seasons. Like I watched Ari's season, which was a trip. But I like that kind of stuff. Like I would go over to my best friend's house and watch it with her and her mom, like in high school. And that was always like one of the highlights of my week.
In terms of like reality shows, I don't know, like I've never gotten into them. The only reality show I can think of, and it's not even a guilty pleasure, I like it because it parodies reality shows, is Nathan For You. I adore that show. I'm not really guilty about it, but it can be so cringe that sometimes I ask myself why I like it.
I really like, I watched this season of Married at First Sight. It's a pretty good show. I enjoyed that. I watched the Louisiana one. I actually think they're casting in Boston again, so if any of you guys want to get married to a stranger, you can cast yourself. But I'm not sure like where you draw the line of reality TV, but I like Impractical Jokers a lot. I like binge watch Impractical Jokers. I just think it's really stupidly fun.
Well, thank you all so much for joining me today talking about guilty pleasures. This was a great conversation. See you all next week. Well, this chat was a whole lot of fun, but I think I hear Miranda Priestley calling my name. Have I seen that movie 100 times? Yes. Can I quote it by heart? Absolutely. But do I have any shame in that? Of course not. Well, thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of Real Opinions. Although our reactions may be a little ridiculous and a little bit racy, they're always real.